About a month and a half ago, my friend and colleague M.K. Tali Gottlieb stood on the Knesset podium and proclaimed something like this: okay, then United States, you don't want to give us smart bombs? No problem. We will use our no-so-smart dumb bombs. Dear friends, I am Kehunah, member of Knesset, colonel and former squadron commander in the Israel Air Force, former Minister of Religious Affairs, and now member of the National Unity Party. My friend Tali expressed with a touch of populism, if I may say so, a position that quite a few Israelis felt during the peak of the delay period in arms shipments from the United States, which I sincerely hope is firmly behind us, that we can manage without the support of the United States. Well, that is all fine, except that I sat in my place in the Knesset and spoiled her punchline just a little bit. We also get the dumb bombs from the United States, I interjected. But the reality, especially for those who fantasize about nixing our reliance on the United States, might actually be a whole lot more gloomy. חברים, the truth is that in the current situation, if the United States decides to hold us back from fighting, we will probably have to stop quite a time before the bombs run out. For obvious reasons, of course, I don't want to go into too much details, but here is an example. Let's talk about aircraft tires. In combat configuration, fighter aircraft need to replace tires on a very frequent basis. So then, it's quite likely that the tires will run out before the bombs do. Actually, we used to have our own tire manufacturing capability, but we found imported ones to be much cheaper. Like the tires, there are thousands of other critical items that are not manufactured in Israel. The lack of any one of them can easily paralyze an array of aircraft. Now, I am sure that there is not a single reasonable person who thinks that the state of Israel can produce all of its security needs by itself. Even when Israel considered producing its own fighter aircraft, the Lavi, the major components, such as the engine, for example, and that's rather major as you might imagine, were American. Of course, the army needs much more than fighter jets and bombs. Transport planes, helicopters, missile ships, submarines, tanks, cannons, guns, and the list goes on and on and on. I'm sure we all agree that an economy powered by only slightly more than 4 million workers can simply not produce everything by itself. Thankfully, and I researched this is not for lack of brain power. There is not a single component, including software, that we cannot produce ourselves. It's simply just not practical. Friends, it's always worth remembering, though, that if the Americans feel they have a very urgent need to stop us, they have the tools, and they are no less effective than delaying arms shipments. The American right of veto in the Security Council of the United Nations is one, for example. With this knowledge in mind, we can conclude that those who fantasize about the separatist interpretation of Bilam's blessings from the last week parasha, לבדד ישכון ובגויים לא יתחשב, a people who dwell alone without a care from the nations, really need a wake-up call. Therefore, we can conclude that our logistic depth is not intended to diffuse situation of crisis in our relation with the United States, but rather to accept and plan for possible future wars which might be longer and more intense, as well as to prepare for extreme situations that may catch us unawares, such as a global storage shortage on TNT, as it's happening right these days because of the war in Ukraine. As an example, we may decide that we will rely on imports for our fighter jet tires, yet when it comes to production of bombs, perhaps we should keep the ability for ourselves in Israel to quickly transform heavy industry factories into bomb production installations, and maybe also maintaining a larger emergency store of explosive devices. I am no expert in economics, but it seems to me that the economic consequences of increasing our security logistic depth will have a deep impact. Everyone understands the budgetary implications of maintaining large inventories, and it's not difficult to understand what would happen if instead of developing our high-tech field and its aligned industries in which we excel, we start pursuing a range of home-produced heavy weapons manufacture facilities. In conclusion, motivation for increasing security independence that arose during this war emanated from the wrong source. Choosing to take decisions that stem from a desire to eliminate reliance on the support of the United States could put us on the road to economic disaster and pose a clear security disadvantage. One of the main pillars of the Israeli security concept is a solid alliance with our great friends and ally, the United States of America. This sturdy alliance rests on shared values as well as the American knowledge that Israel is the only Western democracy in the Middle East and the lone country upon which the US can rely in the entire region. Responsible governments know how to resolve any crisis that pop up while upholding the security interest of the State of Israel. A small country must court alliances and uphold good foreign relations with a world power. Yes, there are a good number of reasons to examine changes in the size of inventories and independent production capabilities. But even here, decisions should be made with an underlying broad perspective and an earnest responsibility. Thank you.